This is a steal for the Toronto Blue Jays. Is a massive new report has just dropped that has huge implications as we head into the offseason surrounding one player in particular and a trade. We'll break down exactly who that is and discuss what this report is. But not only that, we have a bunch of other updates, including some more comments from Ross Atkins, folks. You're going to want to stay tuned till the end of the video. This one's a crazy one, and it is involving a trade. But before we get into it all, if you're a part of the percentage or aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Jays content. Your guys' support has been unbelievable. Now, folks, we know that at this point in the offseason, there's a lot of things happening, whether that be rumors about signings, rumors about trades. A brand new report has opened up, revealing an opportunity for the Jays to absolutely change the way their team looks. But let's start with the report that dropped very recently. So it's from Bob Nightingale, and he said that the Diamondbacks are definitely motivated, in quotes, in moving Ketel Marte this offseason, but will ask for a lot in return. Now, if you've been watching the channel for a while, you've been watching Ketel Marte in general, there has been times, this isn't the first time the Jays have been linked to Ketel Marte. I think dating back to 2021, there was some rumors of Randall Grichuk for Ketel Marte. Obviously, the Diamondbacks heavily declined, but I remember hearing about those and discussing those a little bit with my friends way back years ago. But folks, the Diamondbacks are definitely motivated to trade Ketel Marte. Now, we do have some new comments from the Diamondbacks GM, but if the Jays are among teams who are obviously in on him. But you can see here, people are already starting to say, get ready to learn okay, Blue Jays, pal, which is obviously pretty funny. But as soon as this report came out, Jays fans instantly started to discuss it. Now, the initial report was from a few days ago. You can see here November 10th. We have some new reports that dropped yesterday night into this morning as well. But you can see this here. Now, this is from August 17th, and this is kind of going to provide some context as to how the situation is building. You see there at the bottom, the Diamondbacks will listen to offers on Ketel Marte this winter. That was back in August, and then of course now we're approaching the winter, and it obviously making sense. And back then, the Jays were among the teams who are interested and fit regarding Ketel Marte. Now we're going to dive into why he fits and things like that, but folks, I am all in on Ketel Marte. His last 162 games, he put up 47 homers, almost 120 RBIs for a near 1,000 OPS and an 8.6 F4. He is an absolute stud, no matter what way you put it. You might be thinking to yourself now, how does this work with the positional versatility? Where are the Jays going to play him? I'll dive into all that, but he is going to, if he gets traded, command a haul. But the Jays are going to be, and we know Ross Atkins at his press conference said the Jays are going to be very interested and have already engaged to a degree in the trade market, mainly referring to starting pitchers. But I mean, if you can get yourself involved in Ketel Marte, you do it. He's 32, coming off of a trio of monster seasons in Arizona, dating back to 2023. And he's also on one of the best contracts in the MLB, $102 million over the next 6 seasons for a guy who's putting up insane numbers. An absolute stud. Now, new report dropped that at least 7 teams have inquired on Ketel Marte. Now, the GM did come out and say to the public that it's mostly unlikely that they deal him this winter. There's been some more reports since then saying that he's just saying that essentially to try to maintain as much leverage as possible. But I did want to throw that in there. I want to provide you guys all the information there is. He did say mostly unlikely, but John Gambadoro, and obviously Gambo, a huge reporter in the basketball space and a little bit in just Arizona sports in general, he reported that 7 teams have inquired the last 7 days, and that he said publicly he'll at least hear interested teams out as a matter of due diligence. I still have to do my job. Now, let's dive into the Jays. And the Yankees, before we do, will not be, and this was from yesterday or hours ago, late last night into this morning, the Yankees are on Ketel Marte's limited no-trade list, which means he won't be going to the Yankees. But folks, let's dive into him. Now, last year, 900 OPS essentially. Year before, 932. A pretty good defender. Where does he play? He plays second base. Can you make room for that? You're probably thinking, if you bring Bichette back, where on earth are you going to play Ketel Marte? Because you have Andres Gimenez. If you bring Bichette back, you have Bichette. He can play the outfield, and that's where things get interesting. He's played a bit, I believe, of center field in the past. But you could probably, and if you trade him, you'd be able to figure out a spot here, and he's played center field in the past, in the corner outfield, to where you could get a very versatile player via trade. And maybe, if they get him, they wouldn't want to bring Bichette back. There's a lot of rabbit holes to go down there. I'm not going to dive into it too much, but you could figure it out, right? If you can get a player of his level, especially with how good his baseball is. I mean, he is just one of the best hitters in the game. Unbelievable year last year. Even crazier last 162 games, and that was dating back to August 13th. So even before then, he was, he finished off the season strong too. What would it cost? you probably saw in the thumbnail, or depending if you got it or not, Arjun Amala. So Arjun Amala will probably, I mean, he would have to be the centerpiece of this deal. Now, there is no Trey Savage that's going to happen there. I'm sure the Diamondbacks would ask for him, but this is going to require multiple of their top prospects. Now, let's say Arjun Amala, Ricky Tiedemann, and a guy like, RJ Schreck or something like that. Let me know down below, would you do a deal like that? Now, there's also a framework for a guy like Addison Berger because obviously you have so many outfielders. You can maybe throw Berger around. I don't think the Jays are going to necessarily trade Addison Berger. Maybe they do. I think a Nathan Lucas trade is a lot more likely. Davis Schneider, players like that. But this is quite frankly, I mean, I'm very curious to see what you guys think about it. I would put almost every prospect in the books in a trade. I don't believe you can trade JoJo Parker right now. I think you have to wait till the trade deadline or something like that. Of course, he was just drafted. Unique rule. But Trey Savage, untouchable. Arjun, anyone else, pick from them. I would do the deal. That's how good Ketel Marte is. Yes, he's 32 years old, but he's almost aging in a positive manner right now with the way he's been playing. And that would make Blue Jays much, much better. And something, I mean, obviously, right? And again, the biggest thing here, where do you play him? There's always that question. But if they're motivated, you don't get many chances to go out and get a star like this. Is he an underrated star? You could argue that. He's not, someone who's spoken about as much as guys like Aaron Judge. And of course, he's not as good as guys like Aaron Judge or Juan Soto, but he is a difference maker. And if you want to really improve this team's offense, you can find a way to put him in the corner outfield spot, similar to Kyle Tucker, right? You're obviously not going to get Ketel Marte and Kyle Tucker, but would you rather give up a ton of assets and then have Ketel Marte, or would you rather pay Kyle Tucker and not have to give up assets? Obviously, in theory, Kyle Tucker makes a bit more sense, I guess, in that regard, but you're paying 4x, the financial burden. So it's going to be wild. For me, if you can pull this off without giving up any of, Trey Savage and obviously the core guys, it is an absolute robbery. I don't care how you get them. That is a move that makes you better. And that's something that Ross Atkins is trying to do now. And we know that, I mean, again, not that it would matter in the case of a trade, but Ross Atkins spoke out yesterday about the perception about building a team in Toronto. And he said, we have not come across the hurdle the way I've seen some talk about Toronto. Added winning doesn't hurt in terms of swaying free agents. And in this case, of course, Ketel Marte would be not a non-free agent to be under contract. But think about this. You get a guy like Ketel Marte, you can go out and you can get other free agents because guess what? They're going to want to play in Toronto one way or another. I mean, Ketel is a great hitter. He could play some outfield. Now, at the same time, if you're moving him from second base to outfield, you're probably losing some value there. So realistically, if they get Bo Bichette, would they go out and get Ketel Marte? Maybe a bit less likely, but he can play second. He can play short. He can play center field. He can, you assume, play the corner outfield spot. He is a very interesting switch hitter, almost a super utility man who is absolutely electric with the bat. And there is some clubhouse concerns, so maybe they, you don't want to worry about it on that front. But man, it would be very, very interesting. And of course, I mean, you can make packages. Ron Jimenez is heading back to Arizona in a deal like this. Like, things get a little bit crazy, but if you can get him, it's a steal. And of course, a lot of it relies on Bo Bichette, who Ross Atkins recently said he knows is going to be attractive in the market and will be in his market. So we're going to keep you up to date every step of the way there. Let me know down below. Do you want to see a guy like Ketel Marte on the Jays? An absolute steal, at least in my eyes. Of course, you would have to give up a lot, but man, is he a difference maker.